All right, today we're going to talk about how to use the converse of the Pythagorean theorem to prove that a triangle is or is not a right triangle. So we know that the converse says if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then we know it is a right triangle. Now, again, we have to decide which is A, B, and C. So in this first problem, I'm going to zoom it up a little bit so I can see it better. And if I don't expect that you have the capability of making photocopies, so just do this on scratch paper. We know that we look at a 6, 8, 9, and these are not to scale. The hypotenuse is always the longest side if it's a right triangle, so I'm going to call that C, and then A and B. So my question is, does A squared plus B squared equal C squared? A, in this case, is 6. I will square that. B is 8. I will square that. C is 9. I will square that. Again, does that equal 6 squared is 36, 8 squared is 64, and 9 squared is 81. 36 and 64 is 100, which does not equal 81. So no, not a right triangle. Okay. This next one, 5, 12, 13. I'm using a different color pen for fun. I know that the longest side would be the hypotenuse if it's a right triangle, which is 13. So I will call this A and this B. So my question is, does 5 squared plus 12 squared equal 13 squared? 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144. Does that equal 13 squared or 169? 25 and 144 is 169. So yes, it's a right triangle, because A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, let's look at this one. I'll use a different color for fun. Here, I know that the longest side is 10, and I have A and B. So A squared plus B squared, does that equal C squared? Well, 8 squared is 64, 6 squared is 36, does that equal 10 squared? 64 plus 36 is 100, so yes, it's a right triangle. All right, now we have a 3, 4, 5. Does A squared plus B squared equals C squared? The longest side we have to identify as C, so I'll call these A and B. Does A squared plus B squared equal C squared? 3 squared is 9, plus 4 squared is 16, equals 25. 25 equals 25. So yes, it's a right triangle. And you may have recognized this 5, 12, 13, 6, 8, 10, and 3, 4, 5 as being what we call Pythagorean triples, which means they are always right triangles. Now, here we have A, B, C. They've already identified them for us. So 6.4 squared plus 12 squared equals 12.2 squared, or does it? So here, this is where I'm going to use my calculator. 6.4 squared is 40.96. 12 squared I know is 144. Let's just add those together. And I get 100 I'm going to put that over here. 184.96. Actually, I'm going to write it up here. I should probably do this on scratch paper or a different piece of paper. Let's just see. We could do this a couple ways. I could take the square root of that. It's 13.6, so I know it's not going to work. 12.2 squared is 148.84. So no, these do not equal each other. No, not a right triangle. All right, let's try these ones. I have 2.1 squared. Let's see what that is. 2.1 squared is 4.41. 7.2 squared. Let's see what that is. 7.2 squared. 51.84. And let's just for fun see what that adds up to. 56.25. Alright, let's see what 7.5 squared is. 7.5, sorry I took the square root. 7.5 squared is 56.25. So yes, 56.25 equals 56.25. So yes, it's a right triangle. So if they ever give you numbers and they're not in order, just remember the longest side has to represent the hypotenuse. So here is just for fun some practice of solving for the missing side. And remember the longest side, the side opposite the right angle, is the hypotenuse. So in this problem we're going to call this A, this B. We know the side opposite is C. So we have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 4 squared is 16, 8 squared is 64. 16 and 64 is 80. And if, again, you can always do 16 plus 64, you get 80. The square root, remember we take the square root of both sides, and I get 8.944, and it says rounded to the nearest tenth, it's about 8.9, and we use the kind of squiggly to say about. We don't have units on these problems, so we don't know whether they're inches or meters. I'm just going to do number 9 next. 7, 9, 10, and an unknown. Again, this is opposite the right angle, so we will say that this is C. I have A and B, so I have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 7 squared I know is 49. 10 squared is 100. C squared we don't know yet. 100 plus 49 is 149. In order to solve those, I take the square root of both sides. So the square root, I know, is a little more than 12, because 144 is 12 squared. Well, let's find out. I'm going to use a calculator. The square root of 149 is about 12.2. Just told me to round to the nearest tenth. All right, let's try this problem on the bottom. 2 and 7. Again, we're trying to find the hypotenuse again. A and B, so we have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 times 2 is 4. 49 plus 4 is 53. To find the hypotenuse, I will take the square root, the inverse operation of both sides. Let's see what happens when I take the square root of 53 is about 7.2, about 7.3. Okay. So now we have, again, we're trying to find the hypotenuse. It turns out we're trying to find the hypotenuse on all of these. I was trying to mix it up on you, and I guess I didn't mix it up very well. It looks like we're trying to find the hypotenuse every single time. Okay, so we have A, B, C. 6 squared plus 3 squared equals C squared. 6 is 36. 3 times 3 is 9. 36 plus 9 is 45. When I take the square root, I know I'm going to be a number between 6 and 7. Let's see what we get. The square root of 45 is about 6.7. All right, we have A, B, and C. A is 3, B is 7, and again, it doesn't matter if you have A or B mixed up, but the hypotenuse has to be that longest side. It's opposite the right angle. 3 times 3 is 9, 7 times 7 is 49. I know that 9 plus 49 is 58. We take the square root of both sides. See what the square root of 58 is. 7.615, that rounds to 7.6. All right. And finally, the last one on the page. We know that these are A and B. A squared is 2 squared. B squared is 6 squared equals C squared. 2 times 2, is 4. 6 times 6 is 36. 4 plus 36 is 40. Again, we have a number that is somewhere between 6 and 7. Let's see. The square root of 40 is 6.32. That's closer to 6.3. So it's about 6.3. All right. I hope that all made sense for you. And have a wonderful day.